Bombshell revelation tonight about President's personal attorney, the Justice Department, saying Michael Cohen is under criminal investigation, an investigation that has been going on for months. Let's discuss now. CNN political commentators David Swerdlick, Bakari Sellers, and Scott Jennings. Hello, you guys. How are you?
Hello. It's early.
So tired.
It's early.
Yeah, barely. I'm like, how am I reading the problem? My glasses are so dirty. It's like, so I'm going to take them off and see if I can read. So, David, federal prosecutors now confirm the president's personal attorney, Michael Cohen, is under criminal investigation. A source tells CNN that Cohen, that the raid was akin to a final blow for Trump, and that his anger is beyond what anyone can imagine. If he hasn't done anything, why is he so angry?
Well, because, look, the circle of these various investigations is tightening in closer and closer around his inner circle. Special prosecutor Mueller was appointed last May, not quite a year ago, and, a lot of threads were being pulled by his investigative team. But now, we've seen a series of indictments. We've seen a series of guilty pleas. Michael Cohen, sort of his flunky-in-chief, the president's flunky-in-chief, is now under criminal investigation, as has been reported today. And so you have a situation where the president knows that whether or not he himself is ever charged with anything, or depending on what the results of the special counsel's investigation, that dominoes are really tipping all around him, and this is no longer just sort of a distraction in his administration. This is really the central feature of his time in office so far.
I hate to hear you say that, but I mean, am I the only one? Does anyone feel sorry for Michael Cohen here? I kind of feel sorry for the guy. You don't feel sorry for him? No, listen, anyone's downfall or whatever, I don't take glee in that, but I mean, if you get
I do not wish this process on my worst enemy.
Right.
What Michael Cohen's going through, what his family's going through, is unlike anything anyone can ever imagine. Yeah. And Michael Cohen, I was able to spend time with him in Brooklyn during the presidential debates that we had, and with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton when we were out in Brooklyn. And he's an interesting human being, to say the least. However, what we will figure out throughout this whole process is that not only has he committed wire fraud, not only has he committed mail fraud, not only has he committed crimes and violations of the Federal Election Commission, but he has serious issues, and he has information that may implicate the President of the United States in various criminal activity. And so that is a big thing. So what happened when he was raided is that now we're turning the page, and now Mueller has what he needed to get maybe Donald Trump to be excited or worried.
Go ahead, Scott Jennings.
I think that this is worrisome because it's opaque. At least with the Russia investigation with Mueller, it's pretty clear where they're headed with that. There's the obstruction bucket, there's the collusion bucket. I think the president's lawyers probably have a pretty good idea of what they have, who they've spoken to, and so on and so forth. On the Cohen piece, there's darkness here. We don't know. They've taken things out of the man's office, out of the man's hotel room.
Recordings.
They've got possible recordings. We don't know of what. So there's a lot of...
Can I ask you this before you finish? Because you bring up a point. The New York Times reporting that the Cohen investigation poses more of a threat to President Trump than the Mueller investigation. That's according to advisors. Do you agree with that?
I agree that it is scarier because of what we don't know. And it obviously goes outside the bounds of the presidency. I mean, what Mueller is looking at, in large part, are things that have happened since the president took office or was running for president. This Cohen business could go back for years, so it could be a much larger bucket of stuff. And again, we don't know what it might or might not be. So that, to me, if I were advising the president, that's what would concern me the most. Just flying through clouds without instruments.
Let David get in. Go ahead, David.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, look, I think the stakes are higher with the Russia investigation. I mean, at the end of the Russia investigation, there may be nothing, or there may be something, or there may be something in between. There may not be a crime associated with the President of the United States. That's quite possible. That hasn't been demonstrated yet in what's been reported. That's much more important than what's going on with the president's alleged relationships with these various women, what Michael Cohen...
It's not, David, it's not about the relationships, and I hate it when people do it. This is about a pattern of paying people off and paying hush money. And according to, they said that there's payoff after payoff after payoff. At least that's according to the reporting. Okay.
Don, that's what I was getting to. But I'm saying again, when you're talking about Russia, whatever we find out at the end of the special counsel's investigation, those are matters of the utmost national security at the highest levels. I'm not dismissing what's going on with the investigations around Cohen, around these payoffs. And in fact, what I was going to say is if anything, what it shows about this pattern is that this was something that was so routine, if you believe the reporting in the Wall Street Journal today, the various other reporting, that these payoffs were happening with multiple women at the same time. Today in the Wall Street Journal, for instance, it was reported that the same pseudonyms, Peggy Peterson and David Dennison, were used with this woman associated with Elliot Broidy, as were used in the Stormy Daniels contract. It's as if Cohen is sitting there with a mimeograph machine, if you believe the reporting, ripping off these NDAs.
How old are you, mimeograph?
No. Let me. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dad.
Bakari, I just wanted to say one more thing. But what I'm saying, so I think this is serious. I'm not waving it away. I just don't think the stakes are as high when you're talking about Russia meddling in elections.
Go ahead.
So I think there's one point that I don't mean to scare viewers, but I do believe that we're on the brink of a constitutional crisis. And I think that because of the fact that the president has extremely broad pardon powers, and we're getting to the edge of his circle. We're getting to his inner circle, his inner sanctum. We're getting to his family. We're getting to Michael Cohen. And I would not be surprised if even before any of them were charged, Donald Jr., even Michael Cohen or anyone else, Donald Trump pardoned them, right? And so you have something where the United States Congress has to step up and do something, and hopefully Mueller will come through with this investigation and do something. But I do believe that we're on the brink of that constitutional crisis, because I don't believe that anybody can inhibit Donald Trump or constrain Donald Trump to do what's actually right.
He can pardon at the state level, right?
No, he cannot pardon at the state level. He can only pardon at the federal level, and he can pardon you before you commit a crime.
Well, isn't this a state level? Or is
No.
it federal?
This
Cohen
is federal. This is It's a United States attorney. So my only point is that we saw this with Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon for crimes over a 5-year period, even though he wasn't charged. And so you're going to begin to see Donald Trump's wheels move just like this.
Go ahead, Scott. What do you think?
Well, first of all, the pardon power is broad and it is constitutional. It's well within his right to do it. I do tend to agree it would be a bad idea and a bad day for the country if we started to see either mass firings at the Department of Justice, which is one route, or mass pardons as Bakari has
Just
suggested.
stick around and live long enough. I think you might see some of that. I think you.
Well, the point I wanted to make is it strikes me now that it appears that the president's team, according to the reporting, has decided not to have him interview with Mueller. Now we're seeing the possibility that reports from Mueller could be written and then distributed to the Department of Justice and possibly Congress over the next few weeks. So it's this Cohen business plus the fact that Mueller may be writing reports. We are on the brink of an escalation of movement in this investigation on two fronts.
All right, stick around, everyone. When we come right back, the political war between James Comey and the president heating up, why the president went on a Twitter tirade about the former FBI director. James Comey's new book is full of explosive revelations, and it's got President Trump rage tweeting at the former FBI director. Back with me, David Swerdlick, Bakari Sellers, and Scott Jennings. What are you smiling at? You just smile.
Rage tweeting?
It's 2 o'clock in the
Who
morning.
among us hasn't? We're all rage
smiling.
tweeting.
That's what
I got over that rage. That gets you in trouble. You never want to rage tweet. No.
First of all, can I just say that Comey's not a sympathetic figure? Like, I have all of this. Comey,
You're mad. You still mad?
I'm still mad. Comey came out, violated protocol 11 days before an election, did everything that the FBI and DOJ was not supposed to do, and now he wants to portray himself as a sympathetic figure. Like, no, get over yourself. I'm not buying the book. There are 200,000 pre-sales. I get it. But a large part of the reason that Donald Trump is president of the United States, we could talk about the Hillary Clinton campaign, we can talk about Russia interference, but it was the fact that Comey violated Department of Justice standards. And so, no, he's not a victim. He's not a martyr. He is someone else that is out selling books.
So,
Don, can I just disagree a little bit with Bakari on this point? I agree that he's not a martyr. Comey's not a martyr. He's grown up. He knew what he was getting into. What Comey violated at the end of the 2016 election were Department of Justice guidelines. He didn't do anything illegal.
That's what I said.
So, yeah, no, I know you said that, but I'm just saying, sometimes we talk about this as if something was done that he absolutely could not do. The Holder memo at the Department of Justice said not to talk about political activity 60 days beforehand. That was standard protocol, but there was nothing illegal about Comey coming out and doing that.
I get that whole-heartedly,
yeah.
but
yeah.
the even-handedness, like, when you go into court, they say, if you come in with unclean hands. Comey came in with unclean hands. The reason being is because if you're going to say one candidate is under FBI investigation, then you need to let the American public know that the other candidate is under FBI investigation as well. So, I mean, treat people equally out of the same spoon. That's my
Will
only
we
point.
ever get over the 2016? Okay, well, I've had this conversation.
Well, I'm not going to buy his book. I mean, that's all I'm saying.
Well,
I hope
I'm sure
Comey
that'll
sells-
have a big effect
I
on
really hope
the
Comey
record
sells 3
sales that
copies.
he has.
I want his wife, his mother, and some random person to buy a book. That's all I want from Comey.
I'm going to take up for Bakari because A, it was the beginning of flu season and he had unclean hands, and that's not great. No, B,
There you go. You're here all week.
B, he writes in the book, it's October, and he was influenced by the polling in the presidential campaign. Law enforcement decisions were being influenced by the polling in the presidential campaign and what his read on the election was.
He
which
thought
was
she was
wrong.
going to win, and
Yeah.
he didn't want to make her seem like
So
a
not only was he
illegitimate president.
FBI director, but he was sort of a chief pundit, and he was wrong about his punditry, which, frankly,
Well,
that is one of the core takeaways I had from the excerpts I've read was just the influence of polling on the chief law enforcement.
All right, well, let's step back, though. I mean, and just, are you empathetic at all? Can you imagine being under that sort of pressure with, having Loretta Lynch saying, I'm not exactly recusing herself, but saying that she was going to let someone else handle the investigation. And then you had to make the decision on your own, and you got this race that's really close, and these two people who are, the most unlike candidates in history, and they're going at it. I mean, is there any empathy for what the guy was dealing with? No? Bueller,
No.
anybody?
It's
No.
not empathy, but look, you go back to July of 2016. The FBI could have recommended charges against Secretary Clinton. I'm not saying they should have, but they could have. Their read on it was no charges. That was a break for Clinton. I think it's one of those situations where broadly, politically, I don't disagree with what Scott is saying there. If Comey's saying now that he let politics influence his thinking, that's a problem for Comey's credibility. But, you sort of have to take the good, take the bad with Comey. He could have charged Clinton, and we would have never gotten to October 2016 when he then brought it back up, which possibly cost her the election at the 11th hour.
You could have charged anyone who didn't commit a crime.
Well,
Hillary
she was
Clinton-
under investigation, and she
That's
said, the
fine.
New York Times is reporting saying that she was under investigation. She said that she wasn't.
And that's fine. I mean, she may have been reckless. She may have been negligent. Whatever the word may be, Hillary Clinton did not commit a crime.
What was it,
And not only
grossly
that, but
something?
can we just back up for 1 second right now? We're talking about a president of the United States that is under investigation for not only just being very flippant and very whorish in his behavior. He's not only being under investigation for money laundering and fraud and all this other stuff, but collusion and treason. This is what the president of the United States is under investigation for. And we're back to talking about, as Bernie Sanders said, these damn emails.
Well, he said that she couldn't be president because there would be FBI investigations and she would take us to war.
Well, it's Friday the 13th.
And look what's happening. So let me say this then. This is why I'm exhausted, and you are too. So this week has been a week for all ages, for the ages. See, I can't even talk. Just look at the news that came out of Washington. Michael Cohen was raided. Trump considering firing Rosenstein. Paul Ryan announces retirement. No airstrikes in Syria. Any of these stories would have been enough to sustain a week's worth of coverage in any other presidency, I think. But there you go. Scott, we forgot Scott Pruitt.
Who?
Yeah, right.
Scott,
That was weeks ago.
Which cabinet is that?
Can I chime in? Because since I'm here, can I just chime in? I love to get Scott and all my Republican friends riled up, because I always like to say, what happens if this was Barack Obama?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
we were outraged over the fact that Barack Obama liked Dijon mustard, which is a sin, don't get me wrong, and wore a tan suit.
I like Dijon too, so whatever.
Uppity. and wore a tan suit. I mean, and now we're talking about legitimate high crimes, treason, scandals, frauds, day in and day out. I mean, it's like drinking out of a fire hose. But if Barack Obama would have done this, let's talk. I mean, Donald Trump's bar is near our shoelaces. That is where his bar is. And it's the irony of this goes back to the root of our country. And so, for me, I just sit.
Scott has a pained look on his face.
Well, I agree I agree with Bakari on.
Bakari is right. The first week Obama was in office, President Bush's chief of staff, Andy Card, criticized him on TV because he didn't wear his suit jacket while he was sitting at the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. And now we've got a president who's tweeting insults day and night, and Republicans seem to be going with the flow on it.
Yeah.
Bakari's right.
I agree with Bakari that we should be talking about Barack Obama this early in the morning because his failure in Syria, his failure with Russia on the chemical weapons there, is causing the airstrikes and the military intervention.
You know what's crazy?
So I'm glad you brought up Barack
You know what's crazy about
because
this?
Donald Trump's cleaning up his mess.
I say that Barack Obama failed on just a couple of levels.
Yeah,
one is with historically black colleges and universities.
Yeah.
The others with Syria. He should have done what we're doing tonight with a coordinated strike.
All right.
Years ago.
Bad Bakari, Scary Scott, and what do we call David?
Handsome David.
I won't call you dumb. I'll say, I don't know, something David. I'm just coming up with nicknames because that's what...
Dapper?
Dapper David.
Dandy? Something? No? Okay.
No. Doogie Howser or something like that.
Oh, wow.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you. Thanks for staying up late. I really appreciate it. That's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. Our breaking news coverage continues now with Cyril and Bianca right after this.